Hello and welcome to the Wilder Lincolnshire podcast from the Lincolnshire Wildlife Trust. I'm Melvyn Prior. We've come to the far south of the county today. We've come down to Deeping Lakes and I'm with Ajay Tegala. This is an area you know much better than I do.
I suppose it is, because I grew up here. Yes, I've spent a lot of time on this reserve over the years.
Yeah, wildlife, conservationist, environmentalist, broadcaster and author as well. But it all started here.
It did, yeah. This was my local nature reserve. I grew up in Market Deeping, probably about 3 miles away. And I just love being by the river, the Welland that flows just behind us here. I love watching the ducks as a kid, and that's where it started for me. And then it grew to finding out what conservation was. And I had this innate desire to help wildlife. And so I started volunteering here at Deeping Lakes when I was, I think, 15 or 16 years old.
Do you remember your first visit to the lakes?
I'll never forget my first visit because it was in the Christmas holidays, and it was probably about 2 days after Christmas, and it snowed. And so we came here and it was freezing cold, and I remember my feet got so cold that I put my gloves on as an extra pair of socks.
But it didn't put you off?
No, I learnt to dress a bit more appropriately. But no, I just loved the teamwork. We were doing a lot of habitat management here with volunteers, and I love the camaraderie, working together with a common goal. And I don't mind all weathers, even the rain. I can deal with.
Was it family that introduced you to the site to start with then?
I can't remember how we heard about it. I think it might have been a school teacher. My family obviously encouraged us to go out walking at the weekends and sort of introduce me to the natural world. But I think, it was a bit of a secret in the Deepings. Now, I think more people know about it. But Deeping Lakes, not everybody had heard of it. And then we found out just round the corner there's this amazing place. So we had to come and explore it.
We've got the rain on the roof here in this little shelter in the area. It doesn't always rain here, does it?
No, not always. No, it snows as well. And the sun shines sometimes.
But what was it about the place that captured your imagination as a young lad?
I love water and wetlands. There's just something about being around water and the birds as well. I think I kind of got familiar with the sparrows and the blackbirds in the garden. They were the local birds. But you come out here and there's water birds, and so it was the draw of the habitat, the reeds rustling in the wind. It's kind of a magical place. We'll explore it a little bit more and see the different places. And I just felt very comfortable here and intrigued to see what I could find out about it.
You're featured in the latest issue of the Lapwings magazine, and you talk about the fact that this area had such an impression on what you went on to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So the reserve manager at the time, Dave Van Dome, he was an influence, and some of the volunteers, and they just introduced me to the fact that you could make a career out of working with wildlife, working in amazing places, doing meaningful, worthwhile work. And it just set me off on a path. I thought, this is what I want to do. And so I went and I studied. I did a countryside management degree and lots of volunteering. Spent all the school holidays. I'd come here on a Tuesday it was, and I think a Sunday as well, so twice a week up here, and building that experience, and that enabled me to then go on into a career in conservation.
A lot of young people are interested in wildlife and nature and conservation nowadays. Were you a bit on your own, do you think, when you were growing up? Was it not the thing your mates were doing?
That's very true, very much so. So I was at the Deeping School just round the corner. Lots of great friends, but they weren't really interested in wildlife in the way that I was.
Do you want to come and cut some scrub this weekend? No, thanks, mate. I'm going to play football.
Exactly, none of my friends ever came and joined me. No, they might cycle up on a sunless day. But that's right. So it was a little bit isolating, I suppose, to begin with. But then when I came here and met like-minded people, albeit a generation or two above me, they weren't my schoolmates, but they were inspirational people with such knowledge, and they shared with me tree identification and bird identification. I remember hearing and seeing my first ever green woodpeckers here, and then I just it grew from there.
I think it's amazing, and when you go out and you're with people who already understand the environment, you can learn so much from them. I love going out with an expert that can identify a bird call from a mile away.
Yeah, it's so helpful, and that's how you learn, exactly, yeah. You don't know anything to start with, but then people with that kind of infectious enthusiasm I sort of gravitate towards and hope it rubs off, and it does. You spend time with these people, you spend time in a place like Deeping Lakes. In the course of a sort of 5 or 6 hour day doing some voluntary work, you just come across these things and people point them out and eventually they stick.
It's interesting today, we're in the shelter, even on a wet day like today, the car park is filling up quite early in the morning. Did many people used to visit when you were here volunteering?
Yes, not as many as now. I think, it was not so known about then. We're talking about 20 years ago, something like that. And I think it's nice that more people have more of an interest now in wildlife. It feels like that. It feels like there's more of a draw to come to places like Deeping Lakes, the other reserves, and it's nice to see people enjoying them.
You mentioned going on to study. What did you study then?
So I went to Nottingham Trent University and I did an environmental conservation degree, which was quite broad. We did bits of practical work outside, lots of desk-based stuff as well, ecology, it kind of to get that grounding. And they always say the classic thing for anybody interested in that sort of career is get a practical qualification, but also you need that on-the-ground experience out in nature, learning and getting that practical experience.
And so that came together. So what was your first sort of paid job, or was it all voluntary in the early days?
It was all voluntary in the early days. I had a few voluntary positions, and I think the first one I did a year on the Norfolk coast with the National Trust. I did my placement year from university there, and that led to a seasonal job a year later. Then I got another seasonal job somewhere else, and eventually I got a permanent job.
Tell us a bit about the job in Norfolk, the volunteering there, because the North Norfolk coast, very similar to the Lincolnshire coast in many respects. One thing that I will compare is the seals, which I know you've had a lot to do with. We've got seals at Donanook on the Lincolnshire coast, but very much seals at Blakeney Point.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, such a draw because they're wonderful creatures to see. Unlike a lot of people in Lincolnshire, I think we headed to Norfolk for the inevitable Norfolk coast holiday and go on the seal trip to Blakeney Point. And I think, the River Welland here flows to the sea. And I guess my journey took me out to sea, if you like. And because I was encouraged to get experience in different habitats, and coast was a place I hadn't had so much experience of. And once you get there, it's sort of it gets under your skin. When you're by the sea, you have to have that.
Who would have thought, when you went on a boat trip, perhaps as a youngster, out to see the seals, that eventually you would end up working in that sort of location?
Well, it's amazing how things happen, isn't it? Yeah. I think, you go and you have a nice day out and you think, well, this is nice. And then a few years later, you think, right, I'm going to come back and volunteer. And I think getting immersed in that and that kind of Norfolk way of life, like here, there's passionate people that have grown up there and it's in their blood and they share that knowledge. And it's all about the seasons, the changing seasons and the wildlife that comes. And of course, winter is when the grey seals have their pups. And so I was involved in that, counting the pups. We had a few hundred in my first year and now there's thousands. It's just amazing to see a wildlife success story. The same at Donanook. We kept in touch and worked together with the team there and shared ideas on how do you count thousands of pups safely,
Well, it always amazes me when I see flocks of birds going over and someone will say, there's X number in that flock. And I think, am I right in saying you just have to take a small area and then you times it by how many birds you think you can see?
Yeah, that's it. That's the top tip. Yeah, little block count. So you look and you count, all right, there's 20 there, and then you extrapolate and it's your best guess. Yeah.
Take us back to the early days at Deeping Lakes. What do you remember seeing here at Deeping?
I remember seeing, the flowers. That was one of the big things because a lot of work's been done here because they're old flooded gravel pits. And what's happened is over the years, there was a project. There's another Wildlife Trust reserve, Thirlby Fen Slipe, which has got lovely orchids and wildflowers. And they did a green hay cut there, I remember, one summer. And they've spread it over here. And over the years, we've watched these areas that we've opened up that were kind of choked with scrub. They're now these places where if you come back in the summer, there's so many orchids, there's so many wildflowers, and we helped to create that. And so learning what these flowers are and learning that you can improve habitats and help places for wildlife, that's a key memory for me.
We're just beside the car park at the moment, looking across one of the lakes here. We're going to move off to one of the main lakes. But what would that area there be used for? Is that like an artificial area for, is it sand martins it might be?
Yeah, spot on. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah, that was created a good few years ago now. And now the sand martins nest there in the summer.
It's a few years since you've been back. Is it nostalgic for you?
Yeah, it is that bumpy road coming in. That brings it all back.
I didn't want any suspension on the car anyway.
No. And the hedge has really grown up, which shows how long it's been since I was last here, because things are getting more established.
Would you have been involved in cutting back things like the hedge when you were volunteering?
Absolutely. Just over there, I remember there was a lot of overhanging trees that had fallen into the water and it was getting choked up. And that was, my first day was just over there, pulling branches out of the water and trying not to fall in.
Let's venture out into the rain. Let's head to the main hide. Ajay, we're on the way to the main hide at Deeping Lakes, but you're my guide. You know this like the back of your hand, to be honest with you, because we've come along to an area here which is being developed, really, isn't it?
That's right, yeah. So a few years ago, when I first remember it, all this area behind us was dense scrub, so bushes like we've got on this side, and it's been opened up, and letting that light in has enabled it to become really, not so much now, but when we get into spring and into summer, this is a great space for wildflowers and therefore the butterflies associated with them. So it's that simple message that open up an area, let the light in, and it does wonders for the wildlife.
Butterflies is a big thing for you as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm very proud to be an ambassador for butterfly conservation. And butterflies are so important because they're indicator species of wider environment health. And sadly, they have declined remarkably over the last 50 years. And so it's really important that now we've got the big butterfly count, and actually here at Deeping Lakes for many years there's been a butterfly transect, so data being recorded, and that feeds into the national trends and helps us to conserve these important creatures.
It's not been a bad year this year though for butterflies, has it?
It's been a better year because last year was so bad. With such a wet spring. This year we've had a dry, hot summer, and that's favoured the butterflies, so they've had a better year. But the longer term picture is still, it was a good summer, but it could have been better, and it should have been. So we're still facing decline, but it was a better summer this year.
We mentioned the plants that will go in here and eventually develop at different times of the year. Again, that's important for the moths and the butterflies and the birds as well.
Exactly, yeah, that's so true. And I remember being here in my early days, and some of the walkers, the regular walkers, would kind of criticise what we're doing and saying, it's slash and burn, you're destroying this place. And it's a natural thing, I think, for some people to think you're cutting down trees. That's bad because we do need more trees. But of course, in these environments, you need that diversity. Yes, we've got some areas where it is dense scrub and dense woodland, but it's these areas of open land as well, as you say, that create that wider.
And for a setting like this, you do have to manage it. You can't just let it completely go wild, can you?
No, that's the thing. It's the same with Wick and Fen, where I work now. If we did nothing, if we just let nature take its course, yes, it would be natural in some sense, but it would not be as diverse. It would just become essentially a woodland, which is fine, but you would lose a lot of species as the light gets shaded out, and you lose these glades where you get these wonderful little meadow areas.
I don't know whether your ear is tuned in, but I can hear a bird calling in the background.
Yes, yeah, we've got wrens and robins around. Yeah.
It's really nice. And also this year, I've noticed berries galore. The hedgerows and shrubs are absolutely covered in berries. Is that a sign of a good spring, or is it going to be a hard winter? Is it an old wives' tale?
I think there is an old tale about, how it impacts the winter. But yeah, it's because we've had a dry spring and a hot summer. So it's been berries galore this year, and acorns as well. It's been a mast year for oaks. So many acorns around too.
Well, let's carry on our walk. Let's go into the main hide here at Deeping Lakes. So we've moved across to the hide at the main lake here at Deeping, just having a good look across here. Has it changed much since your last visit?
It's still as beautiful as ever. It's looking a little bit more open, and there's lots of wildfowl on the water, which is nice to see.
The binoculars are out. What have you spotted?
Yeah, well, there's a cormorant just flying across. We've got some mute swans, lots of mallards, and lots of coots as well.
Very good. I mean, it's a lovely spot here. Still a bit of drizzle in the air, but it will look different at different times of the year, won't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, the trees will be turning soon. You get the lovely autumn colours across here. Then in the summertime, everything kind of becomes nice and lush, and that's really nice. But I remember actually looking across at those trees there, seeing a long-eared owl in there. Sometimes, if you're really lucky, there's long-eared owls.
Oh, my goodness. And there will be other birds that will drop in at different times of the year as well.
Absolutely. That's the beauty of Deeping Lakes being quite a large wetland in this landscape, is birds on migration. It's like a magnet, and they'll drop in. And so that's part of the thrill here, is things turn up throughout the season, especially spring and autumn when there's migration. And a lot of the water birds, like I think glossy ibis, are seen more now, spoonbills, great egret. I mean, a great egret you just wouldn't have seen a few years ago. And
even in your younger days, you wouldn't have had them. Even in my
childhood, no. Little egrets were notable.
Yeah,
they were increasing, and now we've got the great egrets as well. So the kind of the heron species are quite adaptable, and they're spreading north, and places like Deeping Lakes are a real magnet to them.
The other thing that always strikes me is birds of prey. I always used to get really excited if I saw a buzzard. Now they're 2 a penny. And kites, we now see more red kite around, don't we?
Absolutely, yeah, very much. I remember seeing my first buzzards hear and them being pointed out and, oh, that's a buzzard, okay. And as you say, now we see them every day, which is really great. And once, a few years ago, I remember an osprey was seen from this hide. I didn't see it, but I don't know if you can just about make out in the top of one of those trees, they put a platform, and that's the osprey platform, in the hope that one day they might come and stay here for a while.
Yeah, not too far away, over at Rutland, where they get the ospreys, don't they?
That's right, yeah, and connectivity is so important for habitats, and with wetlands, these little stopping off points that birds navigate and sort of migrate to are really important, and just having this here and available, birds will find it, and as their populations grow, as the Rutland water ospreys are doing well, maybe one day we'll get them nesting right in front of us here.
What do you see as your role as a communicator in getting messages across about wildlife conservation and the environment?
I see it as sort of twofold, really. It's sort of sharing that enthusiasm so that people can enjoy what they've got locally, and then hopefully feel that empowerment and that desire to make a difference. And a lot of people say, well, how can I make a difference? How can one person make any difference in this world? But it's those small things that you can do, whether it is supporting your local wildlife trust or creating perhaps a little pond in your garden, a little wild patch. These little bits that we can do, they all add up. Yeah. And so, raising that love, sharing that love and the things that people can do to help.
And also, I think I want to touch a bit on the volunteering aspect of things. That's what got you started, and it is an important way to gain experience, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. For young people, it's a great way to gain skills, to gain experience, and growing confidence as well. I was incredibly shy when I started out, and I remember guided walks would happen, like school groups, and I thought that was terrifying. I thought, I'm never going to be doing that. But I had a go, and it just sort of grew from there, and I realised that this is really important to be able to nurture tomorrow's naturalists, because I guess I went on that journey. I was turned on to this wonderful career thanks to people sharing their time and volunteering is where it began.
So again, that shy young person gains experience, gains confidence, and becomes a broadcaster. How did that come about?
Almost by accident, I suppose, but in a nice way. And I think that's such a key part of conservation. It's not just about the physical habitat management, looking after the wildlife. It's about communicating what you're doing, growing support. And when I was at Blakeney, we had lots of seals, as there still are now, even more so, and that they get media attention. Cute, fluffy wildlife is always a hit. And so we had a few news visits, and I think Winter Watch came, and I was pushed in front of the camera to talk about the reserve and the seals, and it went okay, and they said, oh, will you do it again? And I think once you sort of volunteer for something like that and people notice that you've done a half decent job, you kind of get pushed forward more and more, and it grows from there.
Did it become a bit of a buzz? Were you quite happy to do those things after a while?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, you get a nice kind of thrill. First of all, it's just making it through. You think, gosh, I did it. I managed to string a sentence together. But then, it's a wonderful platform to share that awareness, to raise that love, which is really a pleasure to do.
You've written a couple of books, and the first was based on Blakeney, wasn't it?
That's right. So I was there for nearly a decade all up, and then afterwards living out in this remote place surrounded by wildlife, it felt a bit like a dream. I thought I kind of need to write down during COVID when there was more time. I wrote down sort of all my memories into a book and was fortunate enough to get it published. And that was it was a cathartic sort of private project really, but then it's another way of sharing those conservation stories and in a little bit more detail in a book.
And book two?
Well, I was fortunate enough, the publisher said, have you got another book in you? And I said, well, of course, because now I'm based at Wicken Fen with the National Trust again, not so far from here. And we do a lot of, I suppose, what's called rewilding these days, although when it started, it was just conservation grazing, so using Highland cattle and conics, small horses, to rewild and kind of recreate the lost fenland landscape. And so that when you're working with animals, all sorts of things happen. And we were quite pioneering at Wicken, my colleagues that have been there longer than me, 25 years of conservation grazing, all the things we've learned, the mistakes we've made, and the funny things that happen, and the relationships you build up with these animals. That grew into, quite naturally, the second book.
Fascinating. And will there be a book about deepings, do you think?
Well, if it carries on going in a good direction, and if people want to hear about it, I've got some deeping stories. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure you have. I mean, the lovely thing is also, okay, your initial interest was here inland. You're back inland again. But as well as Blakeney, you were working up north as well, weren't you?
Yeah, I did 6 months on Holy Island, Lindisfarne, for Natural England. So that was a natural progression from Blakeney because they've got seals there, they've got seabirds. And actually that was when I first worked with livestock. And I remember one of my early days, the cattle escaped and they went into the school playing ground and we had to clear up after them. So yeah, it was a baptism of fire.
And we've talked about this before. It's not necessarily the mechanical equipment that will help on a wildlife or nature reserve, but the animals can be put to good use, can't they?
Absolutely. I mean, it happens here at Deeping Lakes, the tenant grazier nearby. He has sheep on here for part of the year. And that's so important because in this landscape, the wider East Anglian fens, before they were drained hundreds of years ago, they were this large wetland with large herbivores roaming around and shaping the environment. So there would have been cattle-like species called the aurochs, this ancient larger cow species, and other wild animals roaming around, and that grazing creates a diversity of habitat. So it opens up some areas that enables the light in, and that's what we're replicating here manually. But if you can do it with livestock, then they do it in a naturalistic way, and you're not playing God and saying, right, we're going to cut that field today. They do it in a naturalistic way and form that mosaic of habitats, which is great for maximum biodiversity.
What keeps you going? Because we talk about the environment, we talk about pressures on the landscape. Do you have hope for the future?
I do. I mean, it's easy to lose it on occasions, as you say, with all the challenges that we're facing. But I try and stay positive, and the best way that I do that is actually being involved in some youth projects. I'm no longer youth myself. I've got
all getting older.
Yeah. But I love working with. We've got teenagers at Wick and Fen. We've got our nature champions, we call them. And we said at the start, when I was younger, I was sort of very much on my own in that regard, but now there's networks of young people coming together, sharing that love, and they're so articulate and they're so driven and so forward thinking that they are going to make a difference and they're going to save wildlife in a way that needs to be done. And that's what gives me hope, is seeing those young people making a difference.
What I love is your passion, your enthusiasm. It comes across, and you still absolutely love it, don't you?
I do. I'm very fortunate that I've been able to have this career doing something that I love, and I try never to lose sight of that. And so coming back here and remembering where it all started, it's just it's really nice to reflect on that journey. Nice
to know that it hasn't changed too much.
Yeah, they're still doing a fantastic job here. They're a great team, the volunteers and the staff here. They're a wonderful bunch of people, and it's good to see that they're doing a good job.
A lot of goose activity going on the main lake at the moment. But I think before we sort of round off this month's podcast, it's worth mentioning that the lakes here at Deeping are a triple SI. Just explain what that is.
That's right. That is a site of special scientific interest. So it's places in the UK that have got something special about them. And at Deeping Lakes, it was designated because there was a locally significant number of herons that used to nest here in the trees. And since then, we can see cormorants out there.
Right.
And the cormorants nest higher up the trees. And they basically... their droppings kind of discourages the herons. So there's not as many herons now.
Oh, so the cormorants have taken over?
The cormorants have taken over, yeah. But lots of other species have moved in as well. But the original designation here was for the herons.
Lovely, yeah. I haven't spotted any today, to be honest with you. You usually get a few skulking around. Would you get bittens and things like that here as well?
Yeah, they've been known to pass through. I'm not sure whether they've nested here necessarily, but they've certainly been seen, especially in the winter. So they're one of my favourite birds. I'd love to see one here.
Oh, we were very fortunate to see one a few weeks ago, not here, but it was my very first bittern. And that feeling of seeing the first of any species is really special, isn't it?
It is really special, yeah. The excitement of seeing something that you've wanted to see for so long. You can't beat it.
Ajay, thanks very much indeed for showing us around Deeping Lakes and bringing back some of your memories as well. If you'd like to find out more about things going on, go to the website, the Lincolnshire Wildlife Trust, and get all the details there. We'll be back in the south of the county in a few months' time as well, when we take a look at Willow Tree Fen. But for the moment, thank you very much indeed for listening. You've been listening to the Lincolnshire Wildlife Trust Wilder Lincolnshire podcast. Ajay, we're just heading back to the car and somebody has directed us to see something very special.
Absolutely, yeah, they've just pointed out 2 glossy ibis in the river here. And that's a first for me. I've never seen that.
First for me too. Absolutely brilliant. We had a red kite flying overhead as well, and then a heron went past. It's all happening here, isn't it?
It is. The sun's come out and it's perfect.